Welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. This is a safe space where we invite healthcare providers to unapologetically be themselves after the working day. My name is Jennifer George, and each week I will connect you with guests and stories that will help transform your stress to success and fulfillment. Are you with me? Grab your drink of choice and let's chat. Hey guys, welcome to the Healthcare Provider Happy Hour. I'm your host, Jennifer George, and I'm joining you this morning with Amped Nox. So Amped Nox is a shot. It's a garden blend of nitric oxide contents like beet juice. And I've been using Isagenix products for years, and they've never failed me. They've only helped me in many different ways. So especially their performance line. So this is one of their performance products that's used for endurance type activities to help with stamina. So highly recommended. If you want to know more about it, just reach out to me and we can chat about the products if you'd like. But let's talk more about you. Let's talk about emotional well-being, emotional awareness. Let's talk about sitting with our emotions in order to lead to change that's more positive in the long run. So depending on how you grew up or how you were conditioned, so whether it was the influence of your family, the influence of your social circles, the influence of your education, we all handle emotional feelings differently. So for some people just don't talk about them, right? And we see that a lot. That I've seen that a lot. I've also experienced that in which, for example, if you're crying and people tell you, not to cry, not to show weakness, or not to, or to be strong so that others don't feel sad, right? So, depending on how you grew up, you'll find that you handle your emotions differently when you're dealt with different challenges in your life, especially professionally. And I've always said and felt that when we suppress our emotions and we act like they don't exist, that's what ultimately will lead to burnout. And so I'm hopeful that by doing this podcast and by coaching my clients on this, that I can help build resiliency towards situations that are challenging, that can better be managed and more productively managed for your well-being. So when I think about sitting with emotions and understanding them and becoming more aware of them, I always think about the outside looking in rather than the inside looking out. Oftentimes there's a circumstance that happens that leads to a thought, and then the thought leads to your feeling, and your feeling leads to your decisions and your reactions to them, right? So for example, one of the things that you can ask yourself first and foremost is, what is the conflict at hand? What is the stressor? What is the situation? What has got me to feeling this way? So for example, perhaps you walked into work one day and a new policy was put in place and you had no say in it. It was just being implemented and you were just to execute it. So perhaps in that case, that was the event, the greater situation. And then you might ask yourself, well, what am I feeling now as a result of this? So you could be feeling undervalued. You could be feeling unheard. You could be feeling like you're not a part of the team because no one consulted you. And then you might ask yourself, well, how do you feel because of what you're feeling? And you might start to find that you feel disempowered or powerless. And that could then cause you to ask yourself, well, that's the way I feel, but why do I feel this way? Because some people might act differently, right? You might even just look around and see that your colleagues react very differently to the way you feel. So you might be wondering, well, why do I feel disempowered? Why do I feel powerless here? And that stems back to, well, maybe because, I felt like I was a more important part of the team than I seem to be, right? You're led to believe something, and now you were kind of let down by that. The next question you could ask yourself, well, where did I learn to feel this way? Where did I learn to feel complacent, but also powerless? Complacent meaning like who in my life just let decisions be made for them, for example, just to keep the peace, right? Or just to not ruffle any feathers. Because by you not speaking up, by you not saying how you felt about the policy, even if you had no control over it, right? Even just to voice it, that basically disempowers you, right? It makes you more complacent. So where did you learn to react the way maybe you did? Another interesting thing to ask yourself, I often find in life, we're either, and I've said this before in other podcasts, are you moving towards something pleasurable, or are you moving away from something painful? And that's kind of the harmony of life, right? We're always in limbo doing this. And so a question you could ask yourself, and it's kind of an interesting one, is, well, what pleasure, what security, or what safety does this bring me, this feeling bring me of powerlessness, feeling disempowered? It could be that you might be resistant to change, right? It could be that you're not very adaptable. And so by holding on to the fact that you had no say might make you feel better about that. The other thing too, and you've heard this phrase many times, is that misery loves company. So if you already work in a toxic work environment where everybody seems to be kind of negative, and that seems to be what connects people and the focus of conversations, then you might just fall into that pattern. And that's the other thing is, if it's a circumstance, that's one thing, but if it becomes more of a pattern that you're noticing about yourself, then you definitely want to tap into it and ask yourself some of these questions. And finally, what pain do I feel if I stop this pattern, if I stopped it? And this is an interesting one, because sometimes I find that when we want to sit where we are, which is kind of a negative feeling, and we don't want to be there, but we're safe there for some reason, the pain that you can feel in this circumstance might be that you're afraid of growth. Maybe that it would take you to a whole other level that you didn't even know you had the potential to be at, or that you didn't even realize you had value in. So it could trigger feelings of fear, right? Feelings of fear of failure, feelings of fear of success, feelings of fear of change, right? So those are some questions that I ask myself, not necessarily always in that forum, but I always start with the event that happened, and then I just keep going deeper and deeper. Like growing up, I was always the why girl. People always tease me because they'll be like, oh, okay, Jen's gonna ask why. And again, back then I used to think that was a negative thing, but now I realize that it's one of my gifts. And some people will say that, to ask people why they feel the way they feel can be offensive. But I totally disagree, because it just depends on why you're asking it and how you're asking it. To me, asking why until you get to the core of an issue is valuable. It's explorative. It's chasing curiosity. And there's no black and white. There's no right or wrong. It's allowing people to feel however they feel and to understand why they feel the way they feel. And the purpose of doing all of this is so that we don't continue to let things that disempower us, things that make us fearful or anxious or overwhelmed, continue to show up in our lives. So these are tools that I used over the years to reflect on my own emotions of things that I went through professionally. And again, your upbringing might be the opposite. It might be to suppress it and hope it goes away. But I will tell you something, that whatever you suppress always expresses itself in some way, shape, or form again. So you're best able to sit with it, work through it, but don't judge it. Just be mindful of it. Don't judge it. Be kind to yourself during the process. And if you need guidance on this is one of the activities that I do with my coaching clients. If emotional self-awareness is something that they're lacking in or something that they feel they need more of, this is something we do a deep dive in. So if you're interested in knowing more about my one-to-one coaching, initially I was going to take on 5 clients, but energetically, I'm now going to only take on 3. So there's only going to be 3 spots available. So you can simply DM me on Instagram. My handle is at bestobsessed_with_Jen. If you want to know more about my coaching program, or if you just have questions and want some guidance or support, feel free to do that. So until we chat next time, guys, I really would appreciate if you could take a screenshot, share this episode, tag me. I will do the same, and leave a 5-star review at your convenience. I would greatly appreciate it. It's what helps me bring this podcast to you, and it's what helps me to help others kind of learn from what I've been through and grow from it, and then pay it forward to others. So until we chat next time, remember to stay well and stay happy. So if you guys like this podcast, please subscribe and leave an honest review. Your feedback means everything to me. Your reviews are what moves this podcast forward, and I always appreciate receiving them. If you want to get a hold of me directly, reach out to me on social media. My handles are in the show notes, and you can always subscribe to my weekly newsletters at jennifergeorge.co so that we can stay connected. So until next time, thank you guys so much again for your ongoing support.